Administrator Bullard, I'm really troubled. As you know, not only myself, but the New England delegation in January asked for approval of interim measures for 2013 for Gulf of Maine cod and haddock. And you wrote back in January 14th of 2013 and said, no, we could not have interim measures for the Gulf of Maine cod and haddock. And really the end result was, just to use a couple numbers, was that the New England Fisheries Council then had no choice, as a result of your denial of interim measures, but to vote on January 30th to approve unprecedented cuts, just decreasing the overall quota for Gulf of Maine cod by 78% for the years 2013 to 2015. And to put that in perspective, that means fishermen's allocation has been reduced from 6,700 metric tons in 2012 to 1,550 metric tons beginning on May 1st of this year. I don't know a business that can go from 6,700 tons to 1,550 tons, a 78% reduction, and survive. And this is a matter of survival for an honorable and noble profession in New Hampshire. New Hampshire fishermen who, many of them have this in their families. They have fished the waters. They believe very firmly in sustaining the stocks because it's part of their livelihood. And yet they have not been given the opportunity to even transition. It's just been drastic, the impact that they've felt. And it really bothers me. And so I want to ask you, when I look at National Standard 8 of the Magnuson-Stevens Act, NOAA is directed to sustain both fishing stocks and fishing communities. What actions are you going to take to sustain our fishing industry in New Hampshire? And how do you expect the small boats to survive? In some ways, it's almost the implementation of too big to fail in the fishing industry, the way this is working out for our small boats. So I just don't know a business that can go with a 78% reduction and survive. So can you help me with this? Because this is just something that, you know, I've gotten to meet many of them. It just really bothers me. And it just seems to me that they care deeply about what they do. We're proud of them, and yet so many of them are going out of business.
Senator, I assure you it bothers me too. I come from a fishing port, and the condition of cod stocks in New England is something that keeps me up at night as well. And I wrestle with it. And especially the situation in New Hampshire, a state that had 6 processing plants and is down to 1, Yankee Co-op. It is something that I thought long and hard about when we adjusted the closure due to harbor porpoise at the request of the sector managers up there, persuasive to me at any rate, request. I think that in the long term, the answer is what can we do to rebuild the stocks? And the decision made by the council in January to make that 77% cut a courageous vote is made to rebuild those stocks. Now, long term is one thing. If you can't get to the long term because you go out of business, then what difference does it make?
Correct, and that's what's happening. And I really don't fault the council for this, because basically the denial of the interim measures, I don't think that they had a lot of choice at that point. And so I guess I don't understand the decision why we couldn't at least be granted extend them, because you do have a dual purpose under the Magnuson-Stevens Act. It is, and it seems to me that it's so dramatic what has happened to these fishermen that they can't even plan. You just basically, many of them just had to go out of business.
And so when I did my best to explain it, I said that there were two reasons to deny the interim measures. One was a legal reason, and when we granted interim measures 2 years ago, we said we could do that. We found flexibility where many people thought there wasn't, but we said we could only do that for 1 year. We made it very clear in granting that it was 1 year, and we did that, and we said that we hoped that was a warning that allowed people some preparation to do that, but that it was for 1 year only, and that we could not grant that for 2 years. So there was a legal reason. But the second reason was that the stocks were, we couldn't, from a biological standpoint, the cuts needed to be made. And so that's the other reason to do it. Now we still, there are other fish out there, and we are working very hard with the fishermen to find ways to get people through this. I met yesterday with Secretary Pritzker. She is a businesswoman. She looks at the same issue the way you do. How do you survive this cut in cod, in Gulf of Maine haddock? How do you get through this tough time?
And as you can imagine, this was on the top of my list when I met with her as well,
Yeah,
for her confirmation.
I'm sure.
Because
and
how
other
can you
members
survive?
of the delegation. How do you get through this? And as I've met with fishermen, they say the answer is we know how to catch fish, so there are other fish. How can we do this? How do we solve the problem? If we can't catch cod, if we can't catch Gulf of Maine haddock, if we can't catch yellowtail flounder, there are other fish. If they don't sell, if pollock doesn't sell for the same price as cod, what can we do to catch the fish that are out there? What can we do to get the price? So we have developed with the industry, with others, resources. And what Secretary Pritzker said yesterday is, I will do everything to help you, John, reach out to other agencies, state and federal, and the industry and NGOs, anyone who can bring something to the table to help people get through this difficult time, either by catching the fish that are out there in abundance and build markets, or to get relief. I know the Senate has moved along disaster assistance. Whatever can be done to help people get through these difficult times while we rebuild stocks, you know, I'm trying to not leave any stone unturned to help people get through this time while we rebuild these stocks. That's the answer, though, rebuilding the stocks.
I know that my time is up. I just want to say two things. Number one, I disagree with the legal interpretation.
Okay.
I think that you could have granted the interim measures, but let's put that aside for a minute. I think this goes to Mr. Cunningham's point that he made earlier, making sure that we have good information, because I know that there's a lot of dispute in terms of what data is being used to implement the catch shares program that is having an impact on the fishermen. And so finally, my final point would be, if we do need to give flexibility under the Magnuson-Stevens Act to make sure that there is a path that is more sensible, that we can also sustain the stocks but not put people immediately out of business like that, we've got to do that. So I know my time is up, and I thank the chairman for the latitude, and I will probably stay because I do have a few more questions.